Moving on to our next panel discussion, which is on brand partnership or vendor management. As a salon, you have to deal with brands, you have to engage with them and get the best that they have to offer in terms of products and services, as well as training. So looking at that perspective, we have a very good lineup of experts here. For this panel will be moderated by Marisa Dimitriadis, whom you have already met in the morning. May I please request Marisa to step on the stage. Marisa is the founder and managing director of the Spa Consultants South Africa. My first panelist for this session is Miss Kanta Motwani, a renowned name in the world of hairdressing. She's the owner of Kromakay salons. With India's top celebrities as a clientele, Kanta has also made impressive work in movies. My next panelist is Miss Vaishakhi Haria, creative head and director, Splash Salon. She comes with 15 years of experience in the hairdressing industry, which includes running multiple salons in Mumbai. She has trained over 5,000 hairdressers as an educator over 9 years. Thank you for joining us today, Vaishakhi and Kanta. Please take a seat. My next panelist is Mr. Pravesh Saha, the newly appointed General Manager at Wella Company for their India and South Asia business. Prior to this, he was the head of sales and education at Wella for the Indian subcontinent and also a leadership team member for the organization. He comes with over 14 years of experience with companies such as ITC before joining Wella. He is constantly in search of the right balance that professional beauty brands demand between being FMCG and B2B in the way they operate. So we are really glad to have you on board, Pravesh. Thank you so much for being here. And my final panelist is Aankith Arorra, the founder and CEO of Streamline Beauty India Pvt Ltd. Aankith, please step on the stage. Aankith is known for redefining the distribution of salon professional range of products in India. A marketing graduate from Monash University, Melbourne, Aankith further earned his master's in family managed business from SPJ in Mumbai. His journey within the business world started as a super stockist for FMCG brands. He accidentally stumbled into the salon professional business in 2010 and since then has been a pro salon distributor. Thank you so much for joining us, Aankith. Over to you, Marisa.
Great. Thank you so much. So, the brand partnership topic is a really, really interesting one because salons have one perspective of what their suppliers should be offering them, and the suppliers have another perspective, or the vendors, of what the salons should be delivering on their expectations. So before we start with the questions that I have for our four awesome panelists, I'd like to ask everybody in the room if you can raise your hand if you are a vendor. Anybody who supplies product in the room, a vendor. Okay? And then if you can raise your hand if you are a salon who buys product. Salons? Pretty much everyone. Okay, fantastic. So there you know. So you have a bit of an idea of who we have in the audience. Okay, and then quite interestingly, we've got a panel that is split 2 salon owners and 2 vendors. You should have sat like one instead of one on that side and one on this side. Yes, I think you should swap. There we go. Yeah, just so that it seems a little bit more merged and happy and, you know. Okay, super. So we're going to start with our first question. And this question goes to our 2 lovely salon owners. I'd like you to share with the audience, what do you look for when you select a brand or a product to work with? What is your criteria?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Hello. Thank you, Aankith.
Talk, yeah, talk loud and
As usual, Aankith comes to my rescue. 2 things. 1, I like the product. 2, I like the service. 3, I like the He always does that. Well, what I look for is like a lot of things. I've been doing hairdressing for many years, like more than 3 decades. And earlier, I was like, looking for basic stuff because, I was.
No, no, no.
Can you hear me now? Sorry? Okay. I talk a lot when I'm in the salon, but in front of people, I get like a little nervous. Anyway, what I look for is like three basic things. Is performance of the product, whether the product is good. So for that, you try the product and then you've done a little bit of research. And then the other thing is, which is very important, is the availability. Where is it available? Is it readily available? Is if it is available in like drugstores, or it's available at your local uh, general store, then I don't know whether I want it. So it has to be exclusive. It has to match with the culture of my salon. And another very important aspect is the uh, one is performance, the other one is availability, and the support, which the vendor, my partner who I'm collaborating with, how much support are they going to be able to give me? Once these things are in place, then I think it's fairly easy. It's easier to motivate your, if the product is performing well, if the company who you're partnering with, they're performing well, then your confidence in the product becomes stronger. And then that translates into, making your business better, because it makes your hairdresser more confident, and they're able to. So that's what
Great.
the three main things are.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, for me, it is there are two important things which I feel every brand should cater to. One is the marketing. Uh, if my client already knows the brand that I'm using, it makes my job easy. And I am not so much of a person who would go into extreme exclusivity, because for me to train my team and to get it out there and to get it sold, it becomes very difficult, because if the client walking in already knows a particular brand and they're aware that this is what is the trend, this is what the market is running to, it makes business easy. So from business point of view, I think marketing is something which we all look out for from a brand, because if we have some lovely tools to use like social media, then it's very important for us to be with it. And second is logistics. I mean, I would launch something amazing and then 6 months later the brand is dead. It's a hassle. It's a big hassle, because we have spent those 6 months trying to convert our clients to buy something from us or use something what we are using, and then suddenly there are logistic issues. So the consistency, like you said, it's very important. And also one thing is there that brands being launched left, right, center today. So many amazing products coming. Every brand that gets launched, they know that their product is good. So the time of average products has gone, because the trial and error period is over. Right now everyone will only launch when they are confident on their product. So what that is clear. But then the logistics and the marketing is something that I really would expect from a brand.
Okay, so very interesting for me is that none of you mentioned price. None of you mentioned price point. So that's interesting. So that means that it doesn't matter how much it costs according to the two of you's criteria here. Correct?
No, it has to be definitely price effective. in the sense, that's when you look at the right partners. You want to negotiate with them, you want to get the best margin. But as a salon owner, I'll probably make a little more money if I get a better margin. But ultimately, I want to buy or get a product which is like the best. For me, performance of the product is more important than the price.
Very interesting. Okay. So that sounds awesome. Okay, so now we move on to asking our two vendors, what are your expectations from the salon owners and from your clients to make that relationship feasible and viable?
Okay, so yeah, I think the conversation between a salon and a vendor or a brand supplier has kind of shifted over the years significantly. We've moved on from very basic stuff like commercials and supplies to or best products to, as she was saying, everybody has great products. Everybody's figured out their supply routes. I understand some brands launch with not logistics worked out, but anybody who's been here for a while has that piece sorted. Now the conversation is shifted more towards things like, what can you do to keep my stylists engaged? How can you train them? How can you elevate their craft? I have come into conversations with some salon owners about, can you design a quick service for me which I can do for my clients in the post-COVID world? Two questions like, how can I improve my digital presence? So for example, what Khushbu was talking about is something that as a brand supplier, I am expected to do for my salons as salon partners as well, so that they can be able to showcase themselves better on social media, get that marketing piece going about the brand and about the salon jointly. So this is where the conversation is now shifted. And honestly, as a brand supplier, for me, this is music to my ears. Gone are the days when, brand choices were made just based on some margin, some price, or some quantum of money that was put on the table for a stated expansion plan. Today's salon owner is much wiser, asking for long-term structured business support, and that's truly converted the relationship into a partnership and not something that is transactional. So
I just want to go back to the question. What do you expect from your client in return?
I, as a brand owner, expect that my products and my brands get showcased in the right way in the salon. That's my most important expectation. And because that's how I will build my brand. As to, I am dependent on how the salon delivers my product to a client for my brand equity to be realized. The only other expectation I have is that don't compare, which is, don't compare me to another competition brand, and don't compare my relationship with another salon to my relationship with you. My relationship with you as a brand supplier is customized and the best one for you, and with another salon is the best one and customized for them. Don't compare, and make sure my brand and my product shine.
Okay, good. So you didn't mention that you expect your clients to pay you. Is that an expectation?
Of course it is.
Just checking. Just checking, because you said display of product, but you didn't say that they pay you on time. Okay.
Also from my side, I think, in today's time, as everyone's mentioned, that the relationship has gone beyond just product supply and payments, right? Those are, I would say, basic qualifiers to be in a transaction. But I think what's needed now is, when we are working as brand partners with salons, we have to have a 360-degree marketing approach in mind. Now, what happens is, if either one of us is missing that, the relationship will fail. So I might have the best marketing ideas, but the salon needs to be ready to implement those ideas. So my expectation as a brand owner is that when we do a transaction, we supply you product, you've displayed it, you're selling it, there's education, but there has to be social media involved. There has to be consumer demand generation activities involved. There has to be, a certain merchandising expectation that, okay, we're bringing a product, we need to merchandise it the right way. We need you to give us space for merchandising. Otherwise, what's happening is the product might have the potential to do 10x of what it is doing today, but it will die, down because it's not been given that, that whole first moment of truth when you walk into a salon and you see the whole, portfolio, you see all what's available, and then when we talk of activations, they have to give us days. Okay, these are the days that we will set aside for only educating the consumer, where the brand comes in and says, okay, we're ready to invest time, energy, money to educate your consumer. I think the ball stops at educating the stylist. I think we need to take the ball forward to educating the consumer as well, which is where it has to be back and forth between the salon and the brand vendor. Otherwise, it's not going to blossom as much as it can and as much as it is needed in today's times, when we have competition, they have competition galore, and the consumer is still uneducated about why they should buy a salon professional product versus a online product. Because for us, our bread and butter is the salon and the products itself from the salon. So we want to educate them and upgrade them from using a FMCG product into using a salon professional product, which is where both of us need to be on it and in it together.
Okay, that sounds great. And then let me ask you another question. Do you feel that the salons and the salon owners have become more demanding in their expectations from you as vendors post pandemic, or the same?
Again, it's a very interesting question and a very subjective one. I think as brand owners, we want our customers to be demanding because that keeps us on our toes. It keeps the team on their toes. We want them to ask more because that drives our thought process as to how we could deliver more to them. Because in the end, we can only succeed if the numbers are there, and the numbers will only happen if the demands are there. So if a customer is not demanding anything, that's an issue. And on the other hand, if the customer is over demanding, there are always going to be ways of managing that in a smart way, in an amicable way, in a win-win way. But what happens is sometimes the best results come out when the customers are over demanding, because then you also tell them, look, you might want the sky, the moon, but this is what we also need from you. And it's not just about the numbers. It's about, like I said, that share of mind towards your product. And there are salons that have 10 brands and there's no share of mind. And then there are salons that are 2, 3, 4 brands. So there's that share of mind. It's not only share of shelf. We also need share of mind. We need them to think. We need them to ideate with us jointly and co-create a plan that we can execute with excellence together.
Sounds good. And from your perspective?
Yeah, I think salons have become more demanding, but they've also, and I mean, it's a constant thing, right? You always want to get the better end of the deal, and that's part of a healthy conversation between two business partners, is how I think about it. But I think the important thing that has changed, and there's been a switch post-pandemic, is that they've understood that every supplier has a different role to play. There are suppliers that will serenade them with free product. There are suppliers that will train their stylists. There are suppliers who will teach them about safety practices. There are suppliers that will bring in international equity. There are suppliers that will bring in the best product. There are suppliers that will enable them to be more digitally savvy. So the demands have started moving towards being very supplier specific, as to this supplier operates like this and this is his strength, and let me ask this from them.
Okay, that sounds good. And then another question, since we're talking about expectations from both parties. When you engage with a new customer, do you sit down together and define each other's expectations before the relationship begins? Yes.
Yes, of course.
You do. That sounds interesting.
Actually, I didn't quite.
Before you begin your relationship with a new supplier, I asked, do you sit down and clearly define the expectations that you have of each other in writing and say, right, I expect you to merchandise my stock in a specific way. I expect you to give us consumer days. I expect you to do this. Are those expectations clearly defined in the relationship?
Not really. I mean, it's a growing market. Earlier we had like maybe 3 products. Now they're like every other day there are new products being introduced. So, when I'm sitting with a new vendor, who's come and, I look at the product in totality. Do I need it? I mean, there are so many shampoos and conditioner. There are so many new products. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. So, what I look for, and I feel, earlier, as a young hairdresser, I was very excited. I wanted new things all the time. But now I feel less is more. Because after the pandemic, I'm still thinking about, you asked him the question, have hairdressers become more, or the salon owners have become more demanding? We know what we want now. I know what my customer wants and definitely want to make more money. I want, not as a salon owner, as a hairdresser, I want to make more money. I want to be valued. So I feel the brands, who, especially the color brands, they can give us a lot of support because they do a lot of market research. They know which product is good, so it has to work in tandem. We have to work together. That's where you build your relationships, and then that goes a long way. I mean, when I met first, I don't want to talk about a particular brand, but when I met somebody who was new, who was bringing in a new product, I immediately, the look and feel of the product has to be very good because, today we are more educated. As a hairdresser, I see what are the international trends, what my client wants. My client is well traveled. So if I want a particular product, which I've seen in the latest Vogue or any of the hair magazines or online, I want my distributor to get me that product. And some of them have managed to do that. And that's why the relationships have become stronger and better. And not every new product who's giving you big margins, they're giving, oh, we'll give you 40%. I get a little suspicious. I feel, why are they giving me so much? I mean, is the product that good? It's because, the conditioning has been such. Earlier we would get only like a certain percentage on the markup. So when they come and tell us, like he was talking about numbers, as a hairdresser, I hate being giving a target. Oh, if you sell these many products, I will give you this commission. I'm not interested. The product should sell on its own. It's your job because you have done all the market. You have come to me and you want me to sell your product. So forget your numbers. As a salon owner, yes, I'll be very happy, but there are ways and means of doing it the right way. And for that, I should have a relationship with the vendor. I mean, all the vendors are my friends now. But, you have to communicate. You have to tell them what you want. I understand numbers. I'm a Sindhi. So I do understand. I'm not a dumb hairdresser who only knows how to cut hair. I want to learn. I ask them a lot of questions, how can I make not more money? How can I use less product? And, just, it should be also very cost effective for my customer because there is a lot of competition. And so I think I'm digressing a little bit. I tend to do that. So you just please tell me what exactly you want to know. And
Okay, so now what I'd like to hear from everybody is some personal examples from each of you on how a relationship with your vendor can very quickly go down or very quickly go up. You can say either one, just so that the audience can get some insight.
Can I start? I think for me, let's talk about the good side. For me, if I'm working with any brand, I have to meet them. It has to be a monthly meeting. It has to be a monthly call or a monthly chat. Let's do this together. Let's do that together. Like you asked, that do you plan when you sign up a new vendor? Yes, I do. Because like you mentioned, that you need your brand to perform. So first, whenever the brand is introduced inside the salon, it is the brand's identity which will sell first. Then the stylist will be able to sell it better. And you said that it's important to train the consumer. So when I mentioned about marketing, when I said that if the client knows the brand, it makes my job easy. So brands generally, I always prefer to meet them once in a month. We draw a plan, we execute it. Once that's done, you do the plus, you do the minus, you do your multiplications and everything, and then you make another plan. So 1 year, the vendor and the stylist, I mean the salon owner, has to work hand in hand to grow both ways. Then the stylist takes it forward. Because whenever you introduce something new, the hairstylist is first going to say no. I mean, all our team members are so introvert. They're so comfortable by using one, even in terms of hair color, we use one shade. I mean, that one shade becomes our favorite shade and we use it for all our clients. So that's why we need to work hand in hand for the first year, and then you build on, and then everything is on autopilot.
And now from you, your example, you're going to have to talk really loud.
Yeah, I think in terms of relationships going in the positive direction, it's usually when, I mean, the multiple cases that I've seen, without naming any salon chains or any particular salons, are largely on account of when the salon orientation changes towards investing in their team and their stylists, because then you're essentially allowing the brand to work very closely with your stylists, remove the commercial part out of the game, work closely with the stylist to build the brand together. So those are the relationships that really go up. The relationships that tend to crash are the ones where a lot of comparisons get drawn between this vendor, that vendor, this discount on this salon. And when you get into that kind of a conversation, relationships tend to kind of go down. I mean, it's like a marriage, right? If my wife compares me to all the other men out there, the relationship is going to crash.
This is funny you're talking about marriages. When I was a young stylist, I used to go up to my boss, Nalini and Yasmin. So I used to go to Nalini and say, I want this, I want that. And she said, you're like a newly married wife who wants a new piece of jewelry every time. I'm like, okay, that's a comparison. But as a hairstylist, you always want new stuff. Hairstylists have a very short attention span, I feel. That's the way I am. So I don't know. You were telling me that, your hairstylist only want to use tried and tested. Yes. But in my salon, everybody, I have a big team, so they keep you on your toes. I feel that's also very important. The new stylists want new stuff, and they also want to make a lot of money. So it boils down to one thing: you start giving us more margins.
And an example of when a relationship can go down.
Uh, can I take this? Okay. So for me, I was working with a brand. This happened to me quite recently. It was a new brand. I was very excited. But what I didn't like is the way the product was delivered to me. It was in very bad condition. It took very long. And I called up the vendor. I said, you know what? I think in transportation something is, it didn't look right. The product didn't look. It looked a little damaged, and they change the product, but again, I got the same or similar looking lot. I just called the vendor, said, you know what? I think I'll wait for some more time before that's unacceptable. I mean, they did apologize and said, for me, it was a deal breaker.
So an example of how the relationship went down, so yes, there are, certain customers who will over pressure you on the discount, right? And they'll promise you like a huge number. And sometimes, as a new player in the industry, you do tend to give in and say, okay, you're promising me this share of your business. And then we see that the discount's been given, but there's nothing coming from the other end in terms of either numbers, which is still fine. But communication and everything goes off. I've had certain customers who are trying to finish a brand by doing that, and spoiling, let's say, 5 other customers who we are working with, by trying to undercut when they get that margin, wherein they're supposed to use that margin to develop the business. They're actually using it to undercut their competitors, hence spoiling my relationship with certain brands, with certain salons who are doing great work with me, right? So we've consciously taken a call of not working with some of those salon chains now. So we said, okay, we're going to say no to them, but we're not going to spoil our relationship with some of our standalone partners for the sake of a chain that is intentionally trying to actually spoil the business of my other customers. So we've taken, as a brand, we say no now to a lot of customers where we know that the ethics are not in place. And we, I mean, at least us as a brand company would have now started supporting the standalone salons, the smaller chains, the creative people, the stylist owned salons, much more, because we see that to be a much more productive, sustainable, viable business model for the long run.
Perfect. And then give us an example from your perspective of how relationship has gone up very quickly.
Right. So, on that context, we've had certain, let's say we start up with a new chain or a new standalone salon or a chain of 2 or 3 salons. And we do exactly what we all just spoke of, right? And we've had those examples where we've seen the business blossom because we kind of sat in a joint business plan. There was social media, there was events, there was merchandising, there was consumer offers, pop-up carnivals, and we've seen great results. And of late, I think we've seen a lot more of that than the other example. Also, I think the market is really piping hot right now. So everybody wants to make hay while the sun shines, right? And I'm not talking in the context of the Bombay monsoons, but I'm really talking in the context of the way the sun is shining on the salon fraternity right now. Finally, I would say we are back to level playing field, or I would say better than pre-COVID times. Like the market is extremely piping hot.
Okay. And then just one last set of questions before we open up for questions. If you were a vendor, okay, so we're going to flip the coins here. If you were a vendor, what would you do different for the salons that you don't get? And in the same way, I'd like to flip it for you, gents, to say that if you were a salon owner, what would you want or do that you don't get from the vendor?
Very interesting. I'm going to wait for them to answer, then I'm going to come.
Okay, so you got a minute to think about it. Sorry, I've thrown this in there because I thought, let's hear. It might be nice to hear if you own their business.
For me, I think if I step into a vendor's shoes, I think for me, till date, I've been blessed with really good vendors. Okay, and I've had support. And because it's always a two-way street, so like I said, I make sure I sit with my vendors, I make sure I talk to them, I communicate. So I've never actually had trouble. to be very honest, that I can even think of that this is missing or that is missing.
But would you add anything or do anything different? Maybe.
I-
There must be something. There must be something.
I think, like I said, the consistency should stay. So if you bring something in the market, it has to be kept while the consumers consume it. It has to be there for some time. And also, I would approach the salon when I am fully confident that I can support. I would not just go sell and then disappear. That's just one thing. That's it.
All right? Your turn.
So if I were a salon, and what would I do to which my salons don't do right now for me? I think as a salon, I would work very closely with the brand to understand their brand aesthetics and also more detail about how they actually conceptualize and deliver their product. Being on the other side, I've understood that there is a lot of science and a lot of thought that goes behind every product, not only just the ingredients, but even the packaging, even the branding, even how it's to be used. And somewhere salons don't appreciate that part. And as a salon in those shoes, I would want to engage with the brand on some of those aspects so that I can actually build the business much better for the brand, keeping in mind that there's a lot of investment and thought that has gone behind some of these products.
Nice. Okay, so you would want more engagement, more planning, more open communication, exactly what you said. Okay. For you?
I think I would still want to be a hairdresser, not a vendor. Because I want to have fun. I think vendors have targets to reach, and I'm a little. So can I just be a hairdresser, not a vendor? I can be very demanding as a hairdresser, so I'll still. As a vendor, what I would do differently for the hairdresser, I would take them for more recreational holidays and make learning fun and make as a salon owner, I want my hairdressers to be happy, so more giveaways for my stylist than targets. I would not set targets. I wouldn't. I would educate them and tell them how they can make more money. How can they be smart with their money, the salon management and stuff like that? Because that is something which they are all like MBAs and they come from very solid background. So I feel that should be what should be different. The learning part should be more fun, not boring.
I think that maybe we need to change the word target for you to goal. How does that sound?
Sorry?
I think that we should change the word target just for you to be the word goal. So your goal is 50 units. Your goal is 1,000,000 rupees. Your goal is. Don't look at it like the word target. Look at it like the word goal.
Right.
Your goal is
Thank
not
you.
a soccer goal, not a goal in the net, but your goal. Good. Okay. So it's not
okay.
targets for you anymore.
Yes.
Whoever supplies this lovely lady, please listen. You're going to give her goals and not targets, okay?
It's a goal.
Yes, there we go.
My goal is to have more parties, more fun.
But to get to those parties, you need to reach the goal.
Yes.
There we
Yes.
go.
So I will. Okay, am I a vendor now?
No,
I'm a hairdresser.
you're a hairdresser with a goal.
With a goal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
I'm a salon now. So I'm going to answer in two parts. Okay. The serious part. If I'm a salon owner, the first thing I will do, I'll invest in a person to do a lot of analysis on retail product sales, because I, as a salon, don't want to lose sales to an online retailer. I want that sale to come to my business, right? So if I'm a salon owner or a chain of salons, I'm going to invest in MIS. I'm going to invest in data analysis and invest in growing the retail sales, right? On a lighter note, if I'm a salon, there's a company called Streamline doing really good work. I want to work with them. And on a second lighter note, I've seen salon owners go for all these foreign trips. I want to be a salon owner because I want to go for every brand's foreign trips. So when it comes to selecting the brands, I will select the brands that take me for foreign trips.
Well said.
So you should have more brands.
I'm telling Kanta, I want to be a hairdresser. I want to be a salon owner now. We're switching roles
Okay,
and switching goals. Switching roles and switching goals.
perfect.
I'm not a.
Okay.
I'm a hairdresser, not a salon owner. We are a different breed.
Okay, so thank you very much, everybody, for your input. It's been really valuable. Do we have any questions from, I'm sure there must be some questions, both for vendors and for salon owners. Yes. Can we have the microphone here?
Good evening, everyone. A wonderful discussion, a lot to learn. There's one question, like kind of confusion, which I would like to hear from both the duos, the salon owners and the vendors, right? See, from the vendor, whoever the representative comes for selling the product, for the salon owner, he or she is the face of the brand. Okay, it doesn't matter ABC, what is his name. Okay, for me, he is the brand, maybe his owner is Mr. Ambani, Mr. Adani, doesn't matter, right? So there are some times there where the representative might overpromise something or mislead or misguide to the vendors, which may deteriorate the relationship between the both the parties, which has taken so much time to develop since decades. So in that case, how you duos will react and act to again rebuild that relationship from salon perspective and the vendor's perspective.
So I'll tell you, that's a very natural thing that happens on the field today, right? We have people representing us. Sometimes they'll do a better job than what we could have done. Sometimes they'll completely go down the opposite direction. That's a part and parcel of being in this business. Having said that, because it's a very relationship oriented business / channel, right? It's extremely important for the vendor partners to be directly in touch with as many clients as humanly possible, so that the margin of error or misunderstanding is lower. Also, I think for the salons, when they know the face or they've seen or they've engaged with the vendor partner, it kind of takes care of a lot of the issues that they face from the ground, because they know that the guy behind the brand is not how it's been presented to us, or etc etc. So and secondly, I think firstly we should change the word, like you said, target to goals. We should also change the word vendor to partners, because I think the word vendor gives you that very, ये vendor registration form fill up कर देना जरा please, और उसमें बताना आपका GST number क्या है and all that. So we want to get out of that. We don't want to be called a vendor, because the minute you call us a vendor, that kills half the motivation of the way we are being called, or called out rather, right? So to answer your question, that will always happen. But if you know your partner personally, or know of him and know how he is, that's definitely saving grace. Did I answer your question?
Check. Yeah, not exactly. I'm just trying to understand. See, how do that relationship gets rebuilt? Because it takes, as I said, it takes a lot of time to develop the relationship between both the partners, and he or she might have overpromised something, maybe due to under pressure of targets or some whatever it is, which the brand may not be able to deliver, right? So that again it worsens the trust of the client towards the other partner, and also the vendor towards the client, why the client is not taking.
The only solution is engagement, communication. वो एयरटेल की ऐड थी ना, बात करने से ही बात बनती है. That is the only solution.
You have to treat it like a marriage.
Yes,
So when there's a problem, you need to talk.
you have to talk. There's no other way of solving, because there'll always be problems. There'll always be somebody messing up in the supply chain.
Okay, right.
I think the representatives of the company, they have to also, because they're a big link between the partner and the client.
Okay, thank
So
you.
it has to be a
Sure.
relationship,
All right,
and takes time to build it. And as she rightly said, that the channel has to be open of communication. So
all right, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Are there any more questions? Here's another question.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the discussion. Am I allowed two questions? Am I allowed two questions?
Yes.
Okay, this is for the salon owners. When we walk into salons, when it comes to brands, we see a lot of hair care brands. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So when we walk into salons, we see a lot of hair care brands as opposed to skincare brands. So the first part of the question is, how open are you to stocking and retailing skincare brands in salons?
Can you just repeat the last part of your question? How open are we to?
To stocking and retailing skincare brands in salons.
Okay, so there is a reason why there are so many hair care brands. I'm talking right now purely from the mass category of salons, not the niche ones. The skincare industry, the therapists who work in the skincare industry, they need help in education. Hairdressers are hairdressers by choice. Even today, there are skincare therapists in small salons, or maybe in the mass of the industry, who have chosen that out of compulsion. There is absolutely there needs to be more organized structure of educating these skin therapists. They lack education. Today, you will see a hairstylist who has done an MBA and would still do hairdressing, but in the skincare industry, I don't see it at all. So for that kind of category of the beauty industry to push the retail and things like that, everything falls back on education. Do you agree to that?
yes, completely. And to make it simpler, at least after the pandemic, I've never been somebody who has like a lot of brands. Just choose your main brand and then have like maybe two brands which you can manage to kind of educate your team as well. Education is the key. If you know about the brand well, then you can retail any product you want. But yeah, in a hairdressing salon, I guess.
Also, the market in India is very different. If you go to the US or you go to Europe, you will see, there's aestheticians, and there are separate centers for that. The nail centers, the nail bars are separate. The hair is separate. Even in hair, there's something called colorist. That word is very less used in India. It's barely used in India. Colorist, the ones who give you that best color. So it's also, and I'll tell you the reason behind it is, the credit for why hair is doing so well goes to the big color brands, who are the ones who kind of bought in that category into India, right? No big skin brand has done that yet. So now what has happened is, the reason skincare is big in the D2C, direct to consumer, is because of all of your Miss India, Miss World, Miss Universe pageants. Do you know all of these pageants are sponsored? The winners are decided by beauty brands at the back, who decide that this year India should win because we want to grow the beauty market in India. This is all a strategy at the back. So there's always a strategy. Hair is where it is because of the big color brands. Skin hasn't got there yet in professional because it's extremely big in direct to consumer, right? So I think it's just where the market is today. But if you were to ask this question 5 years later, all of us would have different answers and different perspectives because the market in India is changing rapidly. And if you look at how e-commerce or online sales have grown over the last 2 years because of the pandemic, is again has put us 5 years ahead. We weren't planning to be there as a country, but we are 5 years ahead because of the 2 years of pandemic. So things are dynamic right now and they're changing.
जो दिखता है वो बिकता है basically.
Okay, my second question. When it comes to stocking in the salon, would you rather go to a distributor or would you go directly to a brand? Like brands usually approach salons now. So, which is the route you'd prefer? And this is again for the salon owners.
Whoever comes to me first, whether it's the vendor, sorry, I'm using the word vendor, or somebody who owns the brand and just comes to me, whoever builds a relationship, because I think it's interlinked. It's like,
I think, I mean, whether it's a brand or a distributor or whether it's centralized or whether it is decentralized, it's about the easy reach. So if from the head office it takes 10 days to come, and if from a nearby distributor it will come within 24 days, of course we'll choose the distributor. So it's about the speed of delivery also.
Okay, thank you guys.
I never use the word stalking. That scares the salon owners.
It does.
Yeah?
Okay, sorry if I did, but I'm from a
No,
skincare
I'm
brand.
just. Yeah. Are you from a brand?
I'm from a skincare brand. That's
Yeah.
why the question.
You want to name your brand? We'll get publicity right now.
So I just want to close off by saying that we have changed the word vendor in South Africa. We've never used the word vendor. We've always used the word supplier. And we've just changed it about 2 years ago. And we call ourselves brand partners. And I'll share another little thing that we do that you might want to all start doing is we don't sign agreements with our clients. We sign brand partner promises. And we sit together and we make promises to each other. So I promise my salon to do the following, and I write it down, and it's personalized to each salon. And the salon then tells me their promises, like a marriage vow. And it really, I'm saying this because I am a supplier. I'm a brand partner as well. And it really works well for us. We sit down, we make promises to each other, and the relationship starts off pretty much like a marriage. You fall in love, and that's just a nice idea. And then we're changing the word from today, from target to goals. Great.
that's
When it goes down. Brand partner promises.
So what happens on the worst side?
A brand partner divorce.
What's the bad word?
Well, that's because it's bad.
It's like a falling out party. Falling out party.
Falling out. I like divorce. Brand partner split.
But we would rather stick
Then it
to
becomes an
marriage
open relationship.
till death do us apart. All right. Thank you, Marisa, for moderating this session. And thank you, our expert panel, for participating so wholeheartedly, as well as my audience. You've been wonderful with your questions and queries. I would request Marisa to give our panelists the token of appreciation. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Pravesh. Thank you, Aankith. Thank you, Vaishakhi. Thank you, Kantas. Thank you so much for making it.